Я уже видел два вопроса. Я думаю, нам надо немножечко активнее их задавать. Я буду выбирать эти вопросы. У нас есть подготовленные вопросы, о которых не знают сами спикеры. То есть мы их готовили без их ведома, чтобы это было как бы интересно, чтобы они не готовились. And also I prefer to talk on English because we have our friends. Yep. Yeah, please.
Yeah.
Maybe someone will ask you about the PWA or...
Ну что ж, друзья, я думаю, что мы можем... Да? Да, мы можем начинать. Единственное, что давайте договоримся о том, будем ли мы дублировать на английском или сразу на английском. Right, no problem. So let's start with the question, like we are here on Node.js Ukraine, and the questions I would like to ask is regarding the skill set for senior backend developer. Right now we have some kind of titles inflation, you know, like if you're working mostly in Ukraine, there is some probability that when you have 2 or 3 years of experience, you already have the senior title. But let's discuss a little bit what is exactly the senior titles means. So what kind of skills senior backend developer should have? It's good question. So let's start with how it goes. We have one micro. So if you have something to tell, just raise your hand and yeah. So let's start with Andriy.
Yeah, so first of all, you need to know JavaScript. Obviously, you need to know some core functions, core functionality of Node.js. But beside of course, you should know some frameworks, some asynchronous, synchronous. I mean, with callbacks and on promises like Core Express, at least a few of them. Also, you should think about business a bit. So you should shift to understanding business needs and solve business needs first of all, and not do code for coding. And also you need to know a bit about dev operations. So probably you should have ability to deploy application by yourself at some degree or at full degree. It depends.
Wow, thanks. It's good.
Yeah, that's basically the good answer. I would add some more points. So besides the technical part, I would push soft skills on the first slice, on the first base, because hard skills you will pump every day. You're going to do your job, you write code, and you pump your skills anyway. But to understand business, like it was already mentioned, to understand client, to have some basic connection, to understand their needs and connect to what you can give them, to understand if their needs are correct. I mean, one day a client may ask you to do something that you think that it's typically it's not correct, and your business, your deal is to understand and to give them understanding that you can do it better, or for example to change their opinion, to make them know that this way the project won't work, and to provide with more reliable way to reach the goal. So this I would say it's basically communication and a soft skill. And of course, you need to have maybe degree. I don't have degree, so I wouldn't say that. But technical background, writing code, DevOps, and I think architects you have to be able to provide with architecture solution. How would say.
Right, you can try to
workarounds, workarounds in case of short deadlines or something like that. So you have to be able to deal with that.
So you should have a pool of options for your customers.
Yes, and you have to be able to feel comfortable with different technologies. So if you take junior software developer, they stick to some specific technology, and they will be scared of something new. But as a senior software developer, you take a task and you understand that it will be better to use the technology A, but for this task you would use technology B. That's it.
All right, thank you.
Okay, I can add that senior developer, of course, should have like skills on estimation and splitting tasks, like work planning maybe, because just recently we had a situation when one developer has taken a task and he was making it 7 days. But if they discussed it and split it
Sure.
smartly between 3 developers, that feature would be delivered like in 3 days.
To understand
but
how
what
to work.
business needs delivery, and it's not smart to take task and to make it yourself like longer than you would take. So senior developer should be able to split it smartly and to
Split on his own or
together with the team, maybe to
with the
help.
team or with the project manager? Because like usually you
No,
have
no,
a
no,
project manager who actually planning your sprint.
No, only team knows how long it will take to make some feature. So project manager doesn't know how long it will take. So
Sure.
okay.
Thanks.
Okay, and I think you answered. You said all the main points, but just to add something that I don't think giving you senior level is just in the years. I think sometimes it's even opposite. We have developers working with us who are already developers for over 20 years. And these guys are very good at what they do. I mean, but they will also struggle with some of them who just refuse to look into new technology. You know, that basically they're going backwards, I would say. They're going back because they just have been doing it for so many years, have been doing the same stuff, and it's always been working. And what the hell are you trying to tell me? You're 20 years younger than me. What the hell are you trying to tell me how I should do my job? And I think that actually does decrease the senior level then. So I think senior level is hard skills, soft skills, and being open to everything that's coming your way, which is new.
Oh, that's really interesting. And talking about a little bit to touch DevOps side, where is the edge of the backend developer and the DevOps? Because DevOps, that's completely something completely different.
I think for me, it's the place where they want to sit in the office. The DevOps prefer a room without windows, and the backend guy.
Like a good old days,
So that's a very easy one, yeah.
Right. So, like another short topic I would like to touch is about a team and about the scaling. How many people working in your teams, and how to scale the teams? Because, like, working on the products, as I mentioned in my talk, you have to prioritize the things and to prevent some blockers. Like, how many developers working together on one thing, and how you scaling that? Because, for example, like large companies, Google, Facebook, I don't believe that they're working like 1,000 people on the same project. What is like your best practices with that?
Okay, so our current company, we are with 23 people in total. These are not all developers, but most of them are. And we have basically 3 development teams split in about 4 people per team.
Oh.
We also hire then separate teams sometimes, we just hire them. They're not directly working for a company to build separate, standalone projects or additional modules or something to our product. For me, before when I was working at another company, we had kind of similar, the same split. I think with 4 developers, you're kind of on a good way. 3-4 developers, more is getting drama, less is also drama. So I think that for me that is a really good ratio there. Because I can split the tasks and not with more. There's a lot of more arguing going on. I think more meetings going on than actually developing. For me,
yeah.
but it's my experience.
It's valuable. So anyone wants to add something on this?
Okay. So for me, the same. When team is becoming more than 6-7 people, meetings become very long. Everybody is listening information which is not relevant to him. So everybody is annoyed at meetings. So 4 people is perfect. 5 people is okay. So something about
like
that size.
Something like that, right?
And 1 person is awesome on the project.
Who's working in one-person teams, guys? Amazing. Who reviews your code then?
I
Amazing.
do it good.
If you're talking about the code review, how it works,
I'm good in reviewing my own code. I'm the best developer in my
you
team.
always right, yeah?
Yes.
Amazing.
I'm the best developer in my team, actually. The good one.
You're head of development, I think.
Yeah.
So,
You want me to answer the question still?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, it's hard. But I would just note, comment, I will leave a comment related to people in team, and I think, as it was mentioned, yeah, 4-3, it's good team. I mean, it's easy to manage. But if you have a big team, you can split it and, for example, hold meetings in little sub teams. You can work on different modules, for example. So you can schedule a meeting related to this specific part of application, specific part of module, for example, and that's why we had to talk about microservices today, and that's why they are good, because small sub-teams can work on separate microservices, separate small services, and you can hold meetings separately. That's what I would like to say.
Amazing.
What I can say, I think two pizza team is a good way to split teams. If your team can be fed with 2 pizzas, then it's good.
All right. So let's give a chance for,
we have a
audience-
question, most
from the
voted
audience,
question, about the full stack developers. Is it myth or there exist?
If a full stack developer, is it a myth?
Yep.
Yeah, well, it depends. Sometimes I get sometimes people applying for a job, and then there's a full stack developer, and then I ask them, okay, so what do you mean with that? Because there's a difference between saying there's a very big difference. Some people say I'm a full stack developer because I once looked at C#, HTML, JavaScript. I know a bit of Java too, so there's a very big difference. And if you say I'm so that's a myth. That doesn't exist. So, but if you say I'm specialized in JavaScript front ends, or I'm specialized in building servers, or I'm specialized in building IoT, then you can have different skill sets or different knowledges, different knowledge fields. I do think experts, you can only be an expert in one, and you can have knowledge of others and only be an expert in one. I don't believe in being expert in everything. That's pretty difficult to be an expert in everything.
So, as a conclusion, at least one field, in one field you should be an expert. Other, you just aware it.
Yeah, but you can have a decent level of these. That doesn't mean that these others are not something you know nothing about or you just read about once. But I don't believe in full stack development as in I know everything of development of the whole world. But I do believe I know a lot about building e-commerce websites. For example, this can be an expertise, and you can have different skill sets for that. That makes you then a full stack developer.
Sure.
Okay, I believe that full stack developers exist, and for me, full stack developer is not a person who is full expert in both backend and frontend. For me, full stack developer is a person to whom I can give tasks both on frontend, both on backend, and he will do those tasks in adequate
Like
level.
complete feature.
At level which is acceptable for the project and client. So he is of course not expert, but he is able to deliver pretty good quality of front-end and back-end work, and we have such guys, no problems, they exist.
It's interesting.
Basically, I do agree with previous answer, but from my opinion, I wouldn't hire full stack developer for a project, because I think you need to stick to some area. Nowadays, domains, they are very big. If you study backend, you have at least to know databases, your core technology, you need to know caching, you need to know search, how to organize search, for example, via Elasticsearch, for example. And there are tons of technologies that you need to know. And if you just jump and go for front end, you have to know the same amount of things. And okay, you have a question you will ask. So maybe, yes, to do tasks as a coder or developer, you can be full stack. For example, if this stack is backend and contains from backend and front end, but as full stack engineers, I think they don't exist. You have a question?
Well, I think they exist. First of all, when you're hiring some people, you should hire good developer. And if developer needs to learn some new technology from backend side or from front side, it's just a matter of, I don't know, maybe a few hours or maximum days at least. I don't know, if it's mega new approach week at the maximum, right? But in most cases, if I'm most of the time I'm doing backend and I see, okay, there is a new Reflux dot something dot rxjs dot new dot 4. Okay, I can read the documentation beta and I can use it in a few hours maybe or a few days. So it's not a problem to learn something new on one side or another side. And especially when we're JS developers, so we know JavaScript that is both on backend and front end. And well, I don't see a problem to learn skills on both of the sides.
All right, so
Okay, guys, you can vote for each questions that you see here, and we will ask about the most.
the most rated.
Yeah, the
questions,
most rated for.
So
for
let's
you.
give a chance more for audience, right?
Yep.
So you
Yep.
pick the most rated.
So I have interesting questions. I don't really want to ask about the React, but
In Node.js.
yeah, in
conference.
Node.js conference. So what is your opinion? The best way to manage the big group of developers, like 100, 200 developers, technical leads or a professional manager? What is the best way to manage?
To split into sub-teams, into smaller groups.
It's not my question.
Okay.
That's so. Is anyone?
I think as well split it, because managing 200 at once, and then obviously there will be a technical CTO, because that size companies has C-level people there. So there will be a CTO who's going to be responsible for the technical part. So you will talk with that team about the technical part, and there's going to be some other C-level person who is responsible for people management, and he's going to talk with the team leaders about people management. I don't think there's one or the other can do all. They have to work together and with team leaders of all these split teams. I really, if there's someone here in this room who can manage 200 developers at once, he has a job right now, but that doesn't exist, I think.
Anyone?
Okay, basically, yeah, I agree, because if you have 100 developers, you definitely don't work on the same small feature. So you can easily split them and work separately, and this won't bring you more powerful results than if you work with them just a single team. So you have to split them, and you have to set up management. I think you won't have the same the single manager for these people. You will have more. You will have, I don't know how many managers you need to manage the team, but you have more than one. You will have a split team, and that's how it should work.
But then you get in a situation when you have like a lot of team, and you have to manage team over team to communicate with them. You know.
No, but you don't do this you don't do this. So you have a manager, for example, they take 5 developers. You have another manager, and they take 5 developers. Then you have a manager of managers.
Why manager but not team lead?
I mean,
could you
this
use
is just
micro?
an example. Some cool guy or not guy, or some cool woman or something like that. That's it. So you have to just split, and that's how it should work.
All right.
Yeah, I agree. Divide and conquer, right?
Like this. Another question?
Yeah, so we have a good question. Is Node.js ready for the real backend, or it's need to only the backend for the front end?
Yeah, that's the question. Like, who do you ask this question? Some people say this is the back end of the front end. It's not a real back end. It's not a real front end. I mean, that's a religious question. That's nothing to do with technical.
Anonymous is asking.
Like I was working on 2 projects where there was no front end at all. So they're pure backend and only on Node.js. On one project there was one HTML page, and everything else was a lot of microservices which do work. Like
And this
so
single-
Node is not. Yes, it was single page, but there was a lot of backend work done by Node. So it's not always backend for frontend. It's sometimes backend for backend.
It was just one single HTML, and it was single app application. Sorry.
I really didn't get the question, so I'll pass it.
So from my experience, I'm doing Node.js applications for 8 years since Node version 0.6, I think. And yeah, we did a lot of services without front end, and they were doing some aggregations, they were doing some fintech calculations, they were dealing with some finance and everything, doing some reporting. It's a good layer to work with a lot of databases like MongoDB, for instance, and you can get a lot of it. And a lot of your products can produce different results, not only for front-end like JSON, but for other services, for mobile apps, and so on and so on. So if we are talking about all applications in the world, all the software in the world, right? So anyway, you should get to your user somehow. Via chatbots, with front end, with mobile app, desktop app, and everything, and all of that needs backend. So Node is good for backend. It's production ready for sure.
Now I got it. Now I got the question. I got it in my head. It's, as it was mentioned a few times, it's good to use just for backend because at least that's why we have microservices, for example. Some of them don't respond to front end with some JSON. They do some separate work. They do some specific calculation, but not heavy calculation because of Node.js. But still, it may work with some side tasks. So yes, it can be working for front end, for typical web application, as well as for services that are like helpers for your application.
I didn't check that information, but this week I have heard that Node.js didn't pass some security checks. Yes, and for serious financial services, it is not allowed to use. But I only heard it. I didn't check it myself.
So if it's possible, maybe you can share it somehow with us. It's really interesting because Node.js is pretty great community, you know. All right, so
yes, I just want to add this awesome woman tells the truth. For medical application, it's not allowed to use. I mean, Node.js doesn't pass HIPAA compliance, and we can't use for application where we store some medical data, for example, clients of medicine buildings, something like that. So I know that because I had a client, they told us to develop something, and we were checking if we can pass HIPAA, and we were rejected from this.
But may I ask additional question over this? If Node.js is not really good for this kind of stuff because we don't have any permission, right? Like, what the difference to storing, to not using the Node.js as a business logic layer? It's just a storing to database, for example. You can use different kind of technologies for that. Is there any difference? Why Node.js is not good?
Platform. So there are some known vulnerabilities in engine. So, and this HIPAA, it's very serious, a set of requirements. In the USA, they care very, very much about security of personal information of medical patients. We had also medical project, and they don't allow we shouldn't show reveal information about patients because nobody should know your sicknesses, your
sure
where you was for example in which hospital and what is your name and what are your problems. So and because of that they require to encrypt your database and lot of requirements.
That's for encryption, not for
no, and in Node there are known vulnerabilities and because of that.
Got it. Oh, it's about hacking. Yeah.
Yes, because the fact that it was already highlighted today, we have a lot of open packages. It's open source and
Post and sell scripts
you
and
can,
actually talk.
you can use whenever you need and just may corrupt your application.
We have one more speaker that want to.
Join.
To answer, yeah. Yeah, coming up to this question is Node is ready. In my a few years ago, I've been working for 2 years in Tabcorp. It is the biggest Australian company that works with gambling. So it like all the betting things, all the streaming from 5 or 6 different providers, like live streaming stuff, all the betting things, as I said. And we also had like a part of the project is how we call it, like casino things. Also like a news, regulations, all the personal documentation, because every user has to have official account and has to prove their identity in order to do any kind of betting in Australia. So it's really heavily regulated by government. So we have checks all the time, and all the system is written on Node and microservices. Everything is written, every single service is written on Node for that project. And we do have like a few other organizations that had some kind of betting things. But for example, in Australia, we have a Melbourne Cup, and it is like the biggest event for betting with a horse racing, and all Australians even have a day off. Like that's how much they love it.
Public holiday.
I love it. Yeah, it's a public holiday. Yeah, so our system is the only system that was surviving this day. So you understand, Node could handle more than 200,000 clicks per second on one button. So yeah, make your kind of decisions on that.
But that's Australia, I think.
Okay, I really don't
US.
want to ask this question because it can take like 30 minutes to talk. But what I can do, the best Node.js framework in 2019.
I like pure JavaScript, okay. No framework. Best framework is written by myself.
Only net package, only raw HTTP.
Yeah, it's joke, but I don't know which is the best, so I'll pass microphone.
I don't know either. Like the best, that's something we're gonna spend all night. So I think I'm gonna pass this question.
Okay, I can start with something simple, like it depends on the project, and you need to think before choose. But basically, yes. But I don't. I don't know if we have some good or best framework for now. I used to use Express, I liked it, and right now I switched to Nest.js, and I liked it more. I use Loopback, and it's really heavy for me, and it's not flexible as I thought it should be, so I just decided not to use it anymore. So what I will just explain why I like Express and Nest.js, and that's it. So I will pass the microphone. So I like Express because it's really flexible. You can build it from the you can build your application from scratch. You will have flexible structure. You will just get some modules, write your own code, and will reuse it every time if you need to create a new project. So basically, you get simplicity, flexibility, and you roll this word. I mean, you roll the application. Nest.js brings you typing. I mean, from the box, brings some cool features like good CLI. You can build your application faster, and inside its core, they have already some specific integration for microservices, for GraphQL, for example, validation, etc. So everything that we need to build an application from scratch. And why I didn't like moreover, it has TypeORM prepared inside, and you can integrate it with different databases, and it has repository pattern created inside, so you can use it. And I didn't like Loopback, for example, because someone will tell me that this is powerful and work powered by IBM, and it is good, but it's really heavy. It's not so flexible like Nest.js. It's not so flexible like Express.js. If you need to do, it's good for REST API. And if you need to make some magic, like specific logic, some heavy logic, you will. I think probably you will dance with. Как будет бубен? Бубен как будет?
Just in translatable words, sorry.
Okay,
You can use it as is.
you will do this.
Look, you can you can use it as is.
Okay,
Audience
so
will get this.
you'll then do some magic and in order to finish some specific heavy task. That's what I think. But anyway, I still think that we don't have fully qualified framework like we have in other languages. So we can just easily start it up and voila, we have an application ready. That's what I think.
Great.
Personally, I like Express the most because it's simple, it's lightweight, it's do most of the things you need to do in your application. It has just few flows that I don't like. So first of all, it in current production version that is 4, it doesn't have asynchronous routers. So you need to do some tricks, or you need to callbackify your async functions when you write in your roads. It's first flaw, and a second flaw, it's not the best application framework regarding the performance. So there are a lot of benchmarks in the internet that say that Express is not the fastest one, but I don't think that it's super important to use the fastest application server, because you have a lot of business logic inside your application, so your response time anyway will be will take more than a few hundred milliseconds because you're using databases and things. So the actual framework, all the frameworks will take, will make difference just in a few milliseconds, and it's doesn't make any sense to use the fastest application server at all. So yeah, I don't like 2 flows in Express, but I still use it. I still love it.
I would drop a line here. I think the framework that solves your problem efficiently is the best for you.
Okay, guys. So we probably will ask the
Last question.
last question because everyone want to go to the
We're
after
waiting
party.
for after party.
Yeah,
so we can continue,
have
but
only
it will be more close, I think.
We have only 5 minutes, so the question is, what difference behind team leader and technical leader?
Can we start?
I'm not sure if both. If you would separate both, you're looking for different skills there. If you want to separate both, but I think if is the question there. Sometimes the technical lead can also be the team lead. But if you are working, for example, doing a lot of client implementation or etc., you might want to have a more business person. We build open source product, so our team leads are technical. Very technical people, there's one of them, he's actually here. And so it really depends. And I think, if when we used to do implementation still for customers, then we had a little bit different kind of team leads who, are way more expressive, way more business, who have a bit more experience in actually running shops or, building them. So I think typical team lead and typical technical lead doesn't have to be separate necessarily.
Yes, I agree. And maybe if team lead can be just some person which has very good soft skills, then technical lead should have not only soft skills, but he should be on the leading edge of technologies. He should monitor what is currently trending, or monitor solutions which can be improved on a project. So maybe team lead can be somebody just with good soft skills, but not very technical, perfect person. But technical lead should monitor this technical stuff and what is coming, technical decisions.
Can we combine those 2 roles? Definitely.
So I wouldn't separate them, but again, if you force us to separate, I would say that technical lead, it's like a silent nerd. On the opposite side, team lead is like a funny someone who it's more about management. So team lead is more about management. Technical lead is more about technical stuff. I will be sitting there. I will be silent. I know the tech. Just come here and ask me, and I will tell you something. On opposite side, as I mentioned, team lead is more about I will come to you, I will manage you, and I know what to do. So here are a list of tasks you will do, and let's discuss. Let's go drinking and do something. And there is this guy, we won't go with him. Let's just be sitting here. That's it.
Thank you.
I think they have just two different areas of responsibility. So team lead obviously cares about happiness in the team, and everything good, everyone can work with each other, no one is annoyed, no one is angry. So he also talks to the higher management, so delivers a higher management feeling to the team, and on the opposite side, so he cares more about people. Tech lead obviously cares about technologies, the code, what we are using. Maybe he's doing a bit of architecture, maybe a bit more code reviews than other developers, and more helping others in terms of coding.
Great. We have one question, probably it's a comment. All right, if you can take a micro and add something, would be nice.
Thank you. Because today you have like a lot of questions related to organization structures, and first differences could be between your job titles, but it's not the main difference, because team lead, it's your leader in your team, and your teams could be based on different options, like it could be a team by activity, like quality assurance team, and it also could be team by project. It's pretty common. And also tech leader, it could be a person who is responsible for your career growth. For example, if you have quality assurance department and you have tech lead in this department, it could be your team lead also, but you have tech lead in your company. And in this way, it could be a person who will set your objectives, your goals, and your growth inside the company, and who can track your progress in this company.
It's about career growth.
It could be related to career growth and person who drive your technology experience based on all users, all people, all employees who in this department or who work with this type of activity.
Great, thank you.
So I think we can go to the after party. You want to ask a question?
Another question. Yeah, I think we just meet the link. It's a good chance.
So it was my question about team lead and tech lead, and my next question, I want to understand your ideas. Who would who would be team lead behind team leads?
Over team leads.
Yeah. Maybe you need to bootstrap 5 or 6 teams, right? So who would do it?
Exactly. It's a good question.
I think for me that goes back to the question we had before. Depends obviously how big it is. If there's again 20 leads, then there might be someone in between. But to keep it as flat as possible, I think then you're more into that are people leading certain areas, so certain directions. So one person might be leading the technical part of the product, one person might be leading the business strategy, and one person might be leading, the marketing strategy. And these three, let's just give an example. These 3 directions, so these give directions, they give the direction to the other managers, the other team leads, and these team leads should be aware of what is the direction of the company, what is the vision of the company in all these ways, what is the vision in how we interact with people, what is our vision in how we interact with customers, what is our vision in terms of tech stack and where we're going. And if it doesn't have to be one person again who's translating the message, and you're just going to get someone translating the message again and translating, and then at some point you're going to get lost. But I think that there's not typically one person leading again another person. I don't believe in very big hierarchies. I believe in sharing a vision and having people who can give the vision and translate the vision to the people actually building your products or building for your customers.
Amazing, thank you.
Okay, and if we talk not about product but about outsourcing companies, and like teams report to their team leads or tech leads, and tech leads report to CTO. So CTO, like once a month or once a week, asks team leads about how is it everything going, how is the team, is customer success or happy or not, like everything else. So CTO is the root of the tree, and team leads are like on lower level.
Yeah.
Yes, I think this girl wanted to
Yeah, just-
answer the question.
No,
No?
no, no. That just.
Actually, I think we have limited after party. That's why I'm pushing to done with this here, and we can continue on the first floor. And I have one more question. Could we make a selfie? We need to make a selfie for Eldar.